Reynolds?
Here.
Gross?
Here.
St. Henry?
Here.
Urbanowski?
Here.
Walker?
Here.
Bracken?
Here.
Gingell? Absent with notice.
Okay, thank you very much. That leads us to our meeting minutes, item number 3 on our agenda this evening. We have meeting minutes from our May 4th meeting for both our regular meeting minutes and also a public hearing for PC case 2022-16 for Lava Mountain Coffee special land use request. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
Motion to approve, do I have support?
Support.
Support by Mrs. Urbanowski. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, any public discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please stay with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item number 4 on our agenda this evening is agenda review and approval. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move we approve the agenda as submitted.
Motion to have support? Support by Mr. St. Henry. Any discussion? Seeing none, any public discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please stay with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. At this point in time, that leads us to item number 5 on our agenda for brief public comment on non-agenda items only. If anyone from the public would like to make a public comment here, if you want to state your name and address for the record, please, that would be greatly appreciated.
Michael Follett, 3920 Rural Road, Orion Township. I just want to say thank you folks for doing a great job you did on that master plan. I know you worked on it over a year. You don't get paid enough to do that job, but well done. I know it was a deep dive. Another thing on the agenda is, I forgot now. I don't have my cheat sheet in front of me. On the Zoning Board of Appeals, oh, I know what it was now. On Monday night's board meeting, we passed your redraft of your bylaws and also the ZBA bylaws. So those have been approved at the board level. The ZBA, we hadn't done ours in 20 years. We were just a little out of step. Lastly, serving on the Board of Appeals with Mr. Walker and Mr. St. Henry served on that Ad Hoc Committee on the 6-foot privacy fences. I know that went to you, whether or not you want to take the time or whatever to do it. Problem is, we're starting to legislate. Our job is not to legislate because the problem keeps reoccurring. And I don't want to see our township turn into Fort Apache. That's kind of what happened with Keatington over there on Baldwin Road. And it's not very attractive. So all we're trying to do is put a little more teeth in it. So if you have the time, if you have the will, we kind of appreciate just kind of looking at it. Help us out. That's it, and thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Duly noted. Thank you for public comment. With that said, anyone else here would like to make a brief public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing no one racing up to the podium, we'll strike that off of the agenda. We have no items on the consent agenda this evening, and that leads us to new business item A, which would be PC case 2022-20, use not otherwise included within a district determination, use of manufacturing assembly square footage greater than 4 million square feet. Tammy?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There's a section of the ordinance, specifically 27.02E, that gives the right to the Planning Commission to determine a use, what zoning district it goes in, if it is not provided for in the ordinance. We've started initial conversations with General Motors, and they pointed out to us that IC, which is the district that they're in, if you look at their use chart, lists manufacturing assembly, and there's 2 categories. There's one talking about being a plant and another being a number of buildings. And it has the 2 million up to 4 million square feet. So our ordinance is missing a manufacturing or assembly plant greater than 4 million square feet. So the township is asking you to determine we're missing that use, where would a manufacturing and assembly plant greater than 4 million square feet, what zoning district would it go into? And wants you to determine that, whether it's a use by right or a special land use. We are asking that your determination be IC. in that that is the most intense use district that we have. And if that use already allows 2 million to 4 million, it would make sense that anything in excess of that would be in our most intense district of IC.
Thank you for that overview. I guess turn it over to the Planning Commission. My initial thoughts on this to kick off the conversation would be is I support it being in the IC district. We have extremely limited zoning of IC, and it seems to be the best fit. So, additional thoughts from fellow planning commissioners or questions for our staff? Should I make sure microphones are on?
I was just going to say, I completely agree with that. Lungs and IC.
Are we starting a new designation for 4 million plus? Is that what's happening here?
We have a use that's being acquired, which is more than 4 million. What zoning district of all of our zoning districts does it go into is what I'm asking you.
We currently already have IC as a zoning district that allows 2 to 4 million. The question would be is, we need to find a place for greater than 4 million. Does it continue to stay in IC? If it isn't IC, where else does it go? And is it use by right or special land use?
And my question, I guess, is are we starting a new category, though? I mean, or is this just a one-time special exemption?
Oh, no, it would be the zoning ordinance would contain this language going forward. But we have one property in the entire township that's IC, and that is GM. There are no other properties zoned IC.
Additional discussion? Questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion and we can further discuss that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move for PC 2022-20, requesting a determination that a requested use of a manufacturing or assembly plant greater than 4 million square feet is similar in nature to the uses listed in Ordinance 78, Article 19, Section 1901, IC. The use is clearly similar in nature and is compatible with the listed and existing uses in the IC district. And the use does have specific characteristics that are similar to uses expressly permitted in the district, such as daily traffic count, types of merchandise or service provided, types of goods produced, and expected hours of operation. The use is similar to the existing uses in IC, and the use a manufacturing or assembly plant greater than 4 million square feet is IC as a use by right.
Okay, I have a motion on the table right now that it does follow and is consistent with the district. Do I have support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Walker. Discussion on the motion. I guess I would move that we make, I believe the blank isn't necessarily IC, would be more or less as a use by right or special land use. My opinion of this topic would be is since it is such a great amount of square footage that we would want to see it as a special land use. That would be my feeling about this versus a use by right within that designation. So I guess it's contradictory just of the motion that's currently on the table, but Mr. Urbanowski, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Tammy.
All uses in IC currently are special land uses.
Okay.
Every single use.
That was for the GM facility also when 30, 40 years ago when it opened. Consider a special land use then too.
I can't tell you what the ordinance said 30, 40 years ago. I mean, I could research that if you want me to. But the zoning ordinance right now, all uses in the IC district are special land uses. There's none that are used by right.
Further discussion on the topic? Thoughts?
I would amend my motion then to eliminate the use by right to read
amend.
special land use.
Okay. Mr. Walker, do you amend your support on the motion by changing it to special land use?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So, any other additional standards or conditions or anything like that that we're looking to put forth as part of this discussion? I'm not saying that there is, just asking the question. None? Any additional comments, questions? Okay, so right now, to reiterate the motion that's on the table right now, it's requesting a determination of the requested use that a plant of greater than 4 million square feet is similar to Ordinance 78, Section 1901 for IC uses. It is similar in nature and compatible with the other existing uses in the district, and is compatible and doesn't have any specific characteristics that expressly are permitted within the district, such as daily traffic counts, types of merchandise or services provided, types of goods produced, and expected hours of operation, and would be allowed, the type of use would be allowed by special land use. Additional comments from the board or commission? Tammy?
I would have one more request. If you are looking at your documents that were provided under IC, there are two buckets, as I mentioned, that it says manufacturing assembly plant, and the other is a series of interconnected manufacturing assembly plants.
Okay.
So I would, although we're asking where would something larger than 4 million square feet go, I would ask, is that appropriate in both of those buckets?
Clarification requested, thoughts? I guess to me, it seems to be, to me, it seems like it's appropriate in both buckets, is my opinion. Any other thoughts? Would you like that as part of the motion, please, or clarification of the motion? So if you're willing to agree to, I guess, of that it falls under both categories of combined or separate, correct, facilities?
I'll agree to that
Mr. Gross?
as an amendment to the motion.
Okay, Mr. Walker, do you re-amend your motion?
I don't think
Support?
so. No, I'm just kidding, yes. I will.
All right, for the record, Mr. Walker amends his support. Further discussion? All right, seeing none, any public discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Bracken?
Yes.
St. Henry?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes,
Gross? Reynolds?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. With that said, that leads us to our next agenda item on the docket tonight, which leads to me, before we introduce that project, which is PC Case 2022-08 Peninsula Development Site Plan located on the north side of Silver Bell Road, just west of M24, parcel 0926300014. I would ask that I be recused from this agenda item, as I am an employee of Auger Klein Eiler Architects, and the firm prepared this presentation application tonight. So I guess if that you guys agree, I would just need a motion by a fellow planning commissioner to recuse myself from this case.
I'll make a motion to recuse.
support.
I guess all those in favor, please stay with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I'll be back. Thank you.
Don't go far.
This item, PC 2022-08 Peninsula Development Site Plan, is located on the north side of Silver Bell Road, just west of M24, on parcel 0926-300-014. This is on our unfinished business, since this item was postponed by the Planning Commission at our March 2nd public meeting. Reason for the postponement was to obtain an opinion from the legal department, the Kelly firm, regarding whether or not a drive-through was a permissible use within the zoning ordinance versus a curb service being provided as an alternative. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Yes, please. My name is Brad Klein with Auger Klein Eiler Architects. I'm here with Brian Malash with Peninsula Developments, the applicant, as well as Jim Sharp from Sharp Engineering, the civil engineer on the project. As you mentioned, we were here back in March, and I'll kind of tailor my presentation to what we've revised or amended since that meeting based on the comments from the original township consultant reviews, as well as the discussion that we had here that evening. So if you recall, we're on Silver Bell, just to the southwest of the Malash Palace dealership, and just south of the Peninsula Development's cultivation facility. In looking at the plan, what we have revised since last time based on the comments received, the two ingress and egress drives, the two curb cuts remain. However, we did narrow those down to a single lane width drive to alleviate some of the concerns expressed at the board here. The other was in relation to the curbside pickup, where we had previously queuing lanes that were wrapping around the back of the building. We have now dedicated 6 parking spots to the north side, the rear of the building, for curbside pickup, as opposed to queuing lanes. We've also addressed a number of items in the comments related to sidewalk width, handicap parking, et cetera. Those were the couple of the major items that we were talking about back then. I believe the curbside pickup issue has been resolved within the township in terms of it being an allowed rule by the state per the licensing and regulations of the CRA. This is a little clear, which shows the clear access around the building by the fire department. We also took a look and added, the additional information about drainage and grading as well. So all that information's been provided. In the floor plan here, you can see it a little clear. We added parking blocks to the curbed areas. I think we can discuss that a little bit. I'll kind of go through what I believe are the current comments by both the township planner and township engineer. And in relation to the curb side pickup, we amended the back canopy of the building, reduced that now that it's no longer kind of that queued drive lane. We peeled that back so that it's still providing the delivery personnel from some protection from the weather as they deliver to curbside. Photometric plan was revised to reflect all these plan changes. It's essentially the same. We've also indicated the security fixtures, or those that'll be always on for security purposes at night, whereas the 4 poles in the front of the parking lot or nearest Silver Bell can be dimmable lights. You kind of dial down after 11 p.m. Here's a couple views again of the street. So I'd just like to kind of address a number of the items within the review, or I don't know if the consultants will make a review, if we want to leave our responses to those till after those are made. Okay?
Okay.
And then we did provide a traffic study as requested. I know that at this time it's still under review by the township engineer. However, per the conclusions and recommendations of the traffic engineering consultant that was retained by the applicant, essentially their conclusion was based on the information, their information listed in the report on generated trips and everything else that goes into the study. The traffic engineer determined that the proposed Peninsula Dispensary located on Silver Bell Road should have very limited impact on the existing traffic operations. But again, we understand it's still under review by the township engineer. Just a couple other points. So in the township planner's review, there's a few clarifications or a couple things that just need to be, minor things to be corrected on the plans. The first one, they indicated, we have a typo in our calculation that we are calling there are 56 parking spaces when actually there are 64. We'll get that corrected. The wheel stops, I guess we'd look for some direction from the commission on, the planning commission on location, if what we've shown are adequate or required. Typically, when we lay out sites and design, we typically provide one or the other in terms of a curb stop or a curb. This pavement throughout this development is curbed, so I don't know if that could be looked at as redundant or necessary, but we certainly appreciate input on that. And then we will show whatever is requested. Again, the lights, the 4 pole fixtures that are near Silver Bell will be dimmable to dial down the light intensity after 11 p.m. And I believe most of the bolded items that, again, if we can get a motion tonight, relate to things that were discussed, and we gained your direction last time related to the materials, the exterior materials being used, the planter boxes on the east side of the building, the number of parking spaces within the front yard, and then the lighting plan. Again, the pickup operation, we're dedicated spots, 6 to the rear of the building for that function. In terms of the engineers, township engineers review, I think a number of these, in terms of under their conclusions section, can be addressed in the engineering plans. We can certainly provide an ADA ramp at the 5-foot stripe space in front of the entry door, as well as at either side of the crossing at the main drive aisle. Again, we provided the traffic study, and I don't believe there's an issue with the request regarding the sanitary sewer. So I think that's pretty straightforward. And again, if in the memo that I submitted in response to the original letters, item 11 on page 5 kind of again summarizes, you know, our opinion on the traffic impact. You know, we included some information from the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments traffic volume map, which you can find online. Their average daily trips for Silver Bell Road in this location is about 14,300, and then according to the Highway Capacity Manual, 6th edition, indicates a 4-lane road with left turn lane, such as Silver Bell, has a capacity that likely exceeds 36,800 vehicles per day. So we're certainly, what the traffic study has displayed, well below any impact that would cause any change to the traffic pattern. It's pretty negligible. We'll certainly wait for the township engineer's response to that.
Okay. Thank you. Turn over to the planner, just get an update from the planners.
Yeah, absolutely,
Report.
thank you. So we have a site plan review letter dated May 10th that was included in your packet. On page 2 of that letter, those were the items that the applicant just went over, so I'm going to stick to the summary, and I'll provide our comments on those, and I'll be happy to answer any additional questions in detail. So regarding the first comment about correcting the number of spaces that are shown and listed on the plan, that's a minor site plan correction. The engineering, the comment related to the engineering, we just wanted to, we know there's been some changes to the engineering or the circulation on the site plan. So we just wanted to make sure, and we know that they're going to take a look at it, so we're comfortable with it if they are. Number 3, same thing, we looked at the wheel stops, given the fact that there's a 7-foot sidewalk in front of those spaces. They don't seem entirely necessary, so we would be comfortable with those being waived. We're happy with the way the site looks as presented. And then number 4, about the dimmable lights. So we were just looking for a little bit more detail on whether they would be dimmed 50% or completely turned off, and then just listing a time, hours of operation on their photometric plan as part of the final submittal package. So those were a few of the revisions and additional information that we were looking for. Under Planning Commission discussion and waivers, number 5 is my understanding that the materials were discussed at the previous meeting and were agreeable, so we don't have, we felt that they met the standards as well, so we're happy to hear that you did. Number 6 and 7 are the 2 waivers that are being requested for the plan. Were related to the planter boxes being located closer than 10 feet, which is a waivable standard, as well as providing more than 50% of the parking in the front in the front yard. So those are the 2 waivers that they're requesting. Number 8, again, just kind of relates back to if you're comfortable with us looking at the final photometric plan, then that can be as part of the PC motion for us to review later. And number 9 was just ensuring that everyone was aware, it sounds like they are, that this was a pickup operation, not a drive-through or as it was previously, but it is a little bit unique in that it is a curbside pickup with parking spaces. So given that that's been discussed and was agreeable at the last meeting, we don't see any issues with this, but I'm happy to answer any questions about our letter or the site plan.
Thank you. And Mark, could you give us an update on the engineer's report?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our letter of May 11th was our second review of the site plan. The revisions that were made in regards to circulation, we're comfortable with the driveway spacing, fire department access, getting rid of the queuing lanes, so it's a much improved layout from a traffic circulation standpoint. There's no issues with water, storm sewer, grading; those were all fine. The applicant has, since the last plan, is proposing to extend gravity sanitary sewer from M24 down to midway on the site, as opposed to the previous proposal was a grinder pump and a little force main. So, it's an improvement, and we were just asking that they, as noted in items 1 and 2, show the extent of the improvements out to 24, and then also we were asking if they would extend the main to the west property line for future extension and connections to other developments in the area. Items 3, 4, and 5, again, had to do with ADA ramps. It sounds like the applicant's willing to make those revisions without any problems. And number 6 is the traffic study, which, as the applicant indicated, did receive, but didn't have an opportunity to review it yet. But it is under review. There will be some impact. Granted, there is traffic on, quite a bit of traffic on Silver Road, but I believe the trip generation shown in the study is showing a PM peak of 125 cars coming in. So that's a car every, 30 seconds coming in, so. So we'll have to take a look at that and see if any mitigations required on Silver Bell. So that's really it. I mean, overall, we felt the plan was in compliance, and we were just asking that items 1 through 7 be included as any sort of an approval, condition of approval.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll turn over to the commission. Is there any? We do have the report from the attorney's office that indicates that a revised plan showing that this include a pickup operation as opposed to a drive-through would be an appropriate approval of a site plan for this development. It's a rather extensive report, but it gives some definitions of drive-through versus curbside service. Commissioners, any comments?
I'm just going to start with these waivers because I do believe we talked about the boxes at the last meeting. And I recall that it looked better than the what are they called, the bollards or whatever. I'm okay with that. I was okay with those planter boxes, and I do believe someone mentioned that, as long as the landscaping is kept up, of course you will do that. It's a grow facility. If you can't keep planter boxes nice, then just saying. I'm okay with those. And then talking about the parking, it's 50%. I mean, it makes sense to have the parking in front of the building. The front of the building faces Silver Bell. I'm okay with that because they do have those parking spaces in the back for their pickup. So it makes sense for them to have the parking more in the front than in the back. So those are the two things that I wanted to start with myself.
Any other comments?
Materials, I'm sorry. I think we did talk about the materials. You mentioned that earlier, and we were, because we wanted to get some of that out of the way before you left here to make sure that we weren't giving you another thing to think about. So I'm okay with those things. And I did want to mention that we did have an approval from our fire department too, that they were okay with it. And Public Services said that we have the capacity, but extending that sanitary sewer, is that something that you will be doing?
All right. Yeah, the first time we came through here, Jim Sharp Engineering, the first time we came through here, it was unknown. I guess there was an emergency repair that was recently done at M24 in Silver Bell on the west side of the road. So we were proposing a grinder pump, which was similar to what we had done for the development to the west. Since that time, with the emergency repair and potential future development on the northwest corner of Silver Bell and M24 there, yeah, we thought that it was in the best interest not to maintain a pump for the perpetuity of the development and to extend that sanitary sewer from that intersection to our property. Mark had made a comment that we were going to extend the sanitary sewer across our property. I think that we could give the easement across the property, which is what it says in the letter, but we weren't intending to extend the sanitary sewer line all the way across the property because the next property is already connected via a grinder pump, and then you have the large landfill next to that, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense to extend the sanitary line all the way across the property, but yes, that's hopefully in a nutshell, if you understand that, yeah, we will extend the public sanitary line.
How's that answer for you?
Well, they are extending the main, all the way from 24 into their site, so they do, it's not like it's right at their easterly property line. So there could be some consideration given to the cost that they're incurring to bring it that far, and the future extension on another development, if you wanted. Typically, we ask the utilities be extended to the property line. But again, you can give some consideration to the expense that they're incurring to bring it that far, any mid-site.
And again, there is a sanitary sewer on the opposite side of the street, on the south side of the street, so anything that developed over there would connect to the existing sanitary sewer. So an extension to our westerly property line, again, we are also the property to the west, which is already connected to that sewer via a grinder pump, so it just didn't make sense to us to extend it all the way down. I don't see anybody connecting to it in the future.
Those were my questions so far.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the Commission?
I just have a comment, looking at this plan versus what we reviewed a couple months ago. It seems to address any concerns I had, especially in regard to the in and out off of Silver Bell, the curb cuts. I think that's handled much better now. The circulation seems to be better. The stacking issue's been addressed. The pickup issue has been addressed. So that covers all my bases.
Any other comments? Not any comments from the public? Seeing none. Commission, we have 2 items before us relative to this request. We have the waivers for the planter bed setback, and for the front yard setback. And then we have a consideration for the site plan as submitted this evening. So there's a motion. We could proceed first with the requirements regarding the overlay design standards in Ordinance 78, Section 3504A.
I will make a motion to move that the Planning Commission grants the Lapeer Overlay Site Design Standard Waiver for the 10-foot planting bed setback and 50% threshold for front yard parking for PC 2022-0808 Peninsula Development Site Plan located on vacant parcel. It's been a long talking day, sorry. Located east of 210 West Silver Bell, Sidwell, 0926-300-014, for plans date stamped received 4/27/2022, based on consideration of the following, and the following findings of facts. The planter boxes are aesthetically pleasing and will do their job, just as well as any of the other requested the bollards would do. The 50% threshold for front yard parking is necessary due to the parking in the back of the building that is required for their pickup. So it makes more sense to put it in the front of the building for traffic flow.
Motion, is there support?
Support.
Motion, support. Any other comments? Not? Have a roll call, please.
Walker?
Yes.
Gross?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Bracken?
Yes.
St. Henry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item we have is the site plan as submitted, dated 4/27/22, with the revisions that were suggested by the applicant, and we have I think they've addressed all of the planners' questions in their report of May 10th, and then there's some issues relative to the engineer's report of May 11th, primarily regarding the sanitary sewer extension to the west property line. Is there a motion on the site plan?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Walker?
I move that the Planning Commission grant the site plan approval for PC 2022-08 Peninsula Development Site Plan located on a vacant parcel located east of 210 West Silver Bell Road, Sidwell 0926 300014 for plans date stamp receiving 4/27/2022, based on the following findings and facts. The applicant has indicated that most of the issues that were here before us when the applicant appeared last time have been resolved, and the only ones remaining are the ones that the unresolved issues related to the township planner's review letter, the township engineer's review letter, and the fire marshal's review letter. The applicant has indicated his willingness to, correct me if I'm wrong, cooperate with the engineer and the planner to resolve these last remaining issues, and therefore I would move that the site plan be approved.
Support.
Support. Clarification on the issue relative to the extension of the sanitary sewer to the west property line, or sufficient to accept the extension of the sanitary sewer from Lapeer Road to the east property line and end it there. Is that correct?
Well, they're extending it about midway to their site.
Midway? Okay, is that,
Amend my motion, yes.
Amend the support.
motion, support? Is there any comments from the public? From the applicant? If not, roll call, please.
St. Henry,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Urbanowski,
Yes.
Bracken,
Yes.
Gross,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
That does not conclude our unfinished business. It does take us to item B, and back to our chairman.
All right, thank you very much. Leading into item B on our unfinished business is PC 2021-07, 5-year master plan update. I guess general overview, do you want to have a brief overview, Tammy, of this before we turn it over to Rod, or either one?
You just want to run with it? I'm
Yep.
fine with that.
I guess, Rod, if you want to give us a little overview of why we're discussing the strategy tables and just a general outline of what our expected outcome is.
Sure, I'll be happy to. Thank you. As many of you may be aware, the township is seeking certification from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation under their Redevelopment Ready Communities program. The current draft plan was submitted by the township to MEDC for an informal review. They were very favorable about contents in the plan, but there's one item that they suggested. As you'll recall, the action strategies included all of your action strategies, but it did not assign responsible parties and did not assign a timeframe priority, as well as some of the information that you have, and you look at the table that's included in your packet. And the MEDC has indicated that in order to get all the points that you need so that your plan checks all the boxes, that you really need to fill out at least the responsible party and the priorities prior to adoption. I don't think you're required to go through and identify the funding sources. That's something that would come later. So if you look at the first page, just to refresh your memory, the timeframes are intended to be guides. A short time frame is intended to be 3 years or less to accomplish. A medium to long-term time frame would be more than 3 years. So that, in terms of priority, it's that simple. It's either a short term or it's a medium to long term based on the 3 year. And then in terms of assigning a lead body, typically it would be the administration, or it would be the planning commission, or it would be the township board. It could be some other body, but typically those are the key entities that are responsible for these strategies. So we can go through these, and I think a lot of these are really straightforward. I mean, this is not, I think there may be a couple you'll need to discuss, but I think a lot of these are pretty straightforward in terms of how they might work. So do you want me to go ahead and start with the first goal one and go through those, or the chair, do you want to go through those, or how would you like to?
Either way, I know, put together some initial thoughts, and I think, I guess from a sense of discussion of time frame, is there a right or wrong answer here, or should there be some of these maybe goals that we look as a bigger picture to prioritize, or individual line items? I mean, do you think that some of these are tackled better by a goal as a whole versus single line items?
I think these timeframes are aspirational, so that if you don't, it's not the end of the world if you don't make it. You know, you obviously, sometimes you need budgeting, sometimes you need all other factors you don't control in order for them to happen. I think you can think of these as being very general in terms of, so I would go through, you know, each one and figure out what seems reasonable. And if you don't end up doing it in 3 years, you're not going to get penalized. It's, you know, you're going to make your best effort. And if certain factors happen, then it might be 4 years or it might be 5 years. But like I said, it's aspirational.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to walk us through, and I can just kind of plug in as we go. And I think this can be conversational, obviously, if we can still keep a orderly format, then that would be great. Tammy, go ahead.
I just want to add one thing so our goal would be for this to be completed prior to the public hearing, because that should be, so although we're done it at a relatively early time, we want to put some time into it. I don't believe we think that this is necessarily, if no one looked at this ahead of time, we would like to make progress, but you know, keep in mind, I could put it on the agenda next time also. So,
okay.
You know, I don't want you to rush thinking, oh, we got to fill all these in tonight. If it's possible, if it's doable, wonderful. If you need to reflect and look at it, then, you know, maybe there's something that you say pass for right now. I would ask each one of you was given a copy in addition to your electronic. Please hold on to this as we're working through it if it's not done in one evening.
Understood.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So why don't we just try to be optimistic and put less than 3 years for all of them?
Go ahead, Tammy.
My feeling would be, and chime in if what your thoughts, Rod, is looking at our agendas, looking at the time they all get done, are you setting yourself up for failure, and how can you think you're going to do all at once? If that's what your desire is, that's what we'll do, but I just think it's
Yeah, and I think you want to try to be realistic, and if you do it early too, that's not a problem either. I think knowing what you're all fairly experienced with what's accomplishable, I think, in the township, and have a good sense. You know, it's almost like a gut feeling of what can really be done in 3 years. So I think it's good to try to assign a realistic time frame, and maybe more of them are short-term than long-term, and that's fine.
All right, so let's go through some line items, and I think maybe I'll kind of start off. I mean, I believe in maybe a general sense to help to guide the conversation, some of my thoughts were is that, you know, a lot of the zoning items are something that we're going to tackle with administration, right? So I think it's the advocacy items, the capital improvement, and the other items that we maybe need to consider who that falls within. maybe to kind of kick off, and then I think supporting partners, Rod, I mean, is that always going to be inter-entities or future defined entities like outside, like MEDC, or just at this goal, we're trying to say like, hey, who a part of our current team is those other supporting partners?
If it's clear that there's an outside agency or entity that would make sense to list here, you can list them. If
Okay.
you don't know, you don't have to list them.
Okay. All right, so under, I guess we can kind of just tag team this as we go, but developing standards for missing middle housing, under goal 1. Guess I'll kind of kick off some thoughts. So my conclusion is that's something that we do with our planning and zoning staff, along with the planning commission, and to me, that was a short-term goal, just as how much it's been at the forefront for us. And I think, that's something that as we adopt future zoning ordinances, it's something that we work with the township board. So that was kind of my first line item as an example. Would that be accurate as
I think that's perfect, yeah. So the lead body would be admin kind of /PC, and then you would put in timeframe short, and the supporting partner, you'd list township board, so TB is the abbreviation for that. That, as you just described it, I think that's how you would show that there.
Okay. So to maybe simplify or jump ahead here with goal 1, I felt that I didn't say, I want to talk through maybe long-term, short-term strategies with these. So we can make a blanket statement, but we can also, go line item. I thought all of these zoning action items were admin PC, and we're going to partner with the township board on them. So I guess as we're going through, if anyone disagrees, feel free to speak up. I'm just kind of moving the conversation along, not trying to dictate anything. If, just talking through short-term and long-term goals, so enabling residents to age in place by creating zoning standards to encourage developments of active adult housing, variety of styles, including detached, attached, single-family homes, multi-use developments, so on and so forth. I thought that was also short-term to me. Thoughts? Okay.
This is something we are actively talking about all the time anyway, and I had 2 people ask about this in particular in the master plan, so yes, and I agree with the first one as well.
So 1C, assess and amend ordinances as needed to ensure open space required within developments offer adequate public amenities. Short-term, long-term? Short. Short, I agree. Any disagreements there? Item 1D, review if necessary, update standards for buffering non-residential uses. I said that was also short. Any disagreements there?
No.
Apply standards for street and subdivision design that require connections between neighborhoods that improve residential access, promote public safety, so on and so forth. I thought that was also a short-term goal.
That's ongoing, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so we flow through that. So advocacy items, those are kind of bigger picture, right, is promote residential retrofits for accessibility in order to help seniors to remain in their homes. To me, that wasn't necessarily an ordinance requirement. Rod, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
I think that's more of like our administration between zoning or maybe building department, right, that we're going to rely on. I think we can assist. So how I wrote down was administration with supporting partner roles as PC. And to me, so if we say that it's a long-term goal, it doesn't mean that it isn't a goal right now. It's just kind of maybe a further priority list, correct?
It's true. However, I would say that this one,
Is,
you have already access to some funding that comes from the federal and the county level to assist seniors with that type of thing. So that could be short as well as long. I mean, it could be, you could be doing it now, so you could call it short if you wanted to. Because there's funding that can be made available.
okay, I would be in support of that, and then I would feel the same about 1G, pursue strategies to make Orion Township an age-in-place friendly community. I feel like those are similar in approach. But to me, I said all, because I think that's something that the board can do, we can do, our administration can do. I didn't think that was one entity, so therefore I didn't have a partner established there.
Yeah, and I mean, we are already in support of Oakland County's home improvement
Right?
program anyway. I can't remember what funds that it is that we,
There's block grant funds and
It's
there's
the
other
block
funds.
grant, yeah,
there's-
so we, I mean, it's
we're
very
doing a lot of
short term,
that.
we're already kind of doing it, so. Ongoing, which so short, yeah.
So capital improvement action items, continue public investment in new and existing pathways, sidewalks, parks, roads, streets, improve, blah, 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 blah. I think that does occur here, but to me, I wrote Township Board, since that's typically who initiates capital improvements. I think ourself and our administration is assist or partner in that. And I think that would be a short-term goal in my perspective. Agree, disagree?
Agree.
Okay. Other action items, we had facilitate rehabilitation of removal of blighted residential structures. I believe that's the board, administration and PC as the code hearings officer. We do that currently and have had active cases, so I think the tools are in place, and I think that's a good short-term strategy that, especially since it's already happening now. I support keeping that moving. So under goal 2, natural and historic resources, I feel the same as the previous comment. For goals 1, for zoning action items, I felt that all of them were admin PC with a partner of the township board. So just discussing time frame, unless there's further conversation. Adopt a corridor open space preservation overlay district similar to zoning mechanisms that the township can use to protect important corridor vegetation in rural areas. I said that that was a short-term goal, especially since it's been a big topic within our master plan. Agree, disagree?
Agree.
Assess the zoning ordinance and amend as needed to promote green development that are consistent with leadership and lead standards for those equivalent. A little indifferent about this one. I think it's good. It's not going to hurt to have that be a short-term goal, right? We're talking about natural features in the sense of I guess, garbage dump and things, but I think that could also be one that we push out as a long-term goal. Thoughts on that? I think some of it, to me, right, is if
Medium.
we have the opportunity, do we want to introduce 3 categories, or is it just kind of 2, like short and long term?
Whatever you think is right. Right now, that's the way it's written, but you can add you could add a medium if you wanted to. Absolutely. You could make medium 4 to 5 years, and then long greater than 5.
Thoughts on that? Support of that?
Be getting into the weeds a lot with that.
Well, to me, it was for me, I know it's prevalent, it's important. I think that to me is like a long-term strategy. As low as it's important, I think we need to start designating what we see as higher priority and further priority. So even if they fall closer to the 1-year mark or the 3-year mark, they're priority 1 versus priority 6 or 7. So
Long term,
thoughts on supporting it being 2B being long?
supporting that.
Okay. Amend zoning ordinance to allow alternative energy systems. I said the same thing, long, for that one.
And, I mean, that goes along with the discussion of the landfill and all of this. That's,
Right. And to be clear, I'm not saying that it isn't one. I just, in our action strategy of all the things that we have going on.
we need to, yeah, that doesn't need to be.
Sure.
Explore the addition of a historic overlay zone to recognize and preserve historic assets. I also thought that was long, just because I think some of the other goal 1s are higher priority. Any disagreement, support? Okay. Review and amend the zoning ordinance as needed to support update lighting standards to lower energy demand and light pollution. This was one that I did include as a short-term strategy because I do think there are some immediate things that we could change in our ordinance, like a dark skies ordinance or things like that. I think the more of the renewable energy or energy demand side is a long-term part. So I just defined it as a short for the sake of discussion and simplifying the chart. Thoughts?
I think that's doable in short term.
Yeah, I think there's some minor improvements that we can make. And again, I know I'm going through this, but I'm not trying to force anyone into a thought process. So update the zoning ordinance standards to ensure they align with the county's best practices for stormwater management and low-impact design. I think that's a short-term strategy, and it's something that we're considering on a regular basis. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark? Yes, no? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, We just updated the ordinance and the engineering standards to adopt the county stormwater
Okay.
standards that were already in place. So, yeah, that happened back in the fall, and any site plans that are coming in new as of, I think it's November 1st, we're requiring them to adhere to those new standards, so.
So with that said, that was our motion. It felt to me like it was appropriate to say it was a short-term goal since it's already in motion. 2G, require electric vehicle charging stations, conduits in both public and private parking lots. I struggled with this one a little bit. I know we have a major investment by GM. I haven't heard tons, and I could be persuaded one way or the other about the requirement of it. So I'm not sure. I mean, maybe I'm behind the times here by saying it's long-term and it needs to be short in that 1 to 3 year range, especially with GM.
And keep in mind, the requirement could just be for a percentage of a parking lot, not the entire, okay? It could be targeted.
Plus, if you're just putting the conduit in, it's.
Yeah, prepping.
It's just prepping, it's not
I mean,
installation of
If
the.
it never
of the-
takes off, it's not harming
Right.
anything.
Yeah, valid point. So I think there are some short-term ideas there, so I guess it changed my influenced. Amend landscaping provisions to ensure more natural stormwater management practices, increase tree canopy, and reduce overall impervious surfaces. I said that was a short-term goal. Advocacy items. Educate the development community about benefits of LEED certifications, both residential and non-residential buildings. I put that on our administration. And I think that's a short-term goal. It exists now. It's just a matter of considering renewable energy sources. And I think, to me, it was, LEED is, give or take, just a good framework for a environmentally conscious building. So I thought that it doesn't hurt, and it's a small tidbit to at least say we look favorable on it.
I have a question about that.
Go ahead.
Just in general, educate the development community. I mean, is there not already continuing education
They should be educating us.
I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
So,
How big
agreed.
of a priority is it for us to be, I mean, would it be more like, hey, this is a value that we hold and we're educating them on it?
So typically, you're correct. I would say as an architect, LEED typically gets pushed by the community in which the development is in, or the client itself, right? It doesn't just kind of come out of thin air of I typically don't just say, hey, I want to do LEED, sadly enough, right? Even though it's good in concept. So I think if we were to maybe promote it or to say, hey, are you considering any sustainable practices? It's a bigger book. We're talking about disposal of materials, utilizing sustainable materials, utilizing, like this building that has economizer cycles, and, there's an on and off and a low button or an eco button, those kind of things. It isn't just to one category of this, hey, you wear a gold crown and you're perfect, right? There's other levels that could be implemented and be promoted. So.
Thank you.
So I agree, disagree on short term?
You said yes for.
I said short, yep.
Well, yeah, because it goes along with 2B, because we're already saying that that's a short term.
Yep. 2J, which is continue to promote and publicize Township's participation in Tree City. Since that's already occurring, I said it was a short-term goal. I think that's our administration, and I think the Township Board, and we partner with that, was what my thoughts were.
Yes.
Capital improvement action items, 2K, identify and budget for grant and funding opportunities to acquire and enhance parcels adjacent to environmentally sensitive sites. I thought that was our administration, the Township Board, and I think that's a short-term goal. It's something that we kind of sort of do now, by capturing public dollars with pathways and things, and I think it doesn't hurt to continue to push that.
You mean like pocket parks and things like that?
Yeah, I think this is talking a little bigger picture, right, in the sense of can we have a sustainable, a retention garden instead of a retention pond, you know, so, you know, just something that's good for the environment, that doesn't hurt, and especially if grant dollars can achieve that, you know, cover the gap in that.
And it is a priority already, because we just got that's grant to do that garden.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
agreed.
Can I question that?
Yep.
Just reading it literally, I mean, isn't it talking about coming up with funding opportunities
Oh,
for the township to acquire
sorry.
and enhance parcels adjacent to environmentally sensitive areas? So it would be looking for the township to come up with grant money to buy land
You're correct.
that's adjacent.
Sorry,
Didn't see it the same way as you.
Oh,
I apologize. I misread that. Then therefore, I guess I would support it as maybe a long-term strategy, since it's not something that we're acquiring right now, or that it isn't on the docket right now. I do think it's a smart goal. Agree, disagree?
yes. Thank you for reading it slowly.
You're welcome.
I mean, we've been here for such a short time. I don't know why we would not read it correctly. Other action items, 2L, explore the creation of Friends of Orion Volunteer Group to assist with identification and removal of invasive species, identification and protection. I think that's a short-term goal. That's administration, the township board. We assist with that by when developments come in, we ask for development agreements to have it in there. They're advocating for the committee, so I think, and some of those are already in place to me. Agree, disagree? All right, 2M, partner with Orion schools and local environmental professionals to understand important environmental issues in the township and region to make recommendations for educating parks and recreation users. To me, that was a township board item. We assist with that along with the staff. Was open for discussion on short-term, long-term goal of that. To me, it was less of a priority from our perspective. I think it is nice. But in the long list of shorts that we have, I was debating adding another short.
Long term.
Yeah.
All right, that leads us to Goal 3, economic development. So similar to prior zoning action items, I thought were PC administration with our supporting partner of the Township Board. So 3A, amend the zoning ordinance to add mixed-use designations that align with the goals of Hamlet, Village Center, and mixed-use designations. Short-term, long-term goal. Short goal? Okay. Update industrial zoning to accommodate modern mix of tech, research, light, and industrial uses.
Sure.
Agreed. Sorry, I'm catching up here typing. Review and amend the zoning ordinance as needed to ensure the development review process is efficient and as effective as possible. Isn't that already happening? Weren't supposed to.
Always
Tammy.
something you can do, right?
So short-term goal. No pressure, Tammy. Develop flexible and parking standards and other site standards to redevelopment sites to enable new users on physically constricted sites, lower barriers to positive redevelopment. Is that supposed to read as to promote or to positive? Is that a typo? Am I crazy?
No, well, redevelopment that's considered positive in terms of your master plan. So
positive,
lower
okay.
barriers so that you're getting what you really want in your plan.
Okay.
That's what that, yeah.
To me, that was a short-term goal. Agree, disagree? All right. Say what?
What's that?
Just getting back to what Derek was saying.
Isn't it all a short-term goal? I think it's worthwhile going through reading these. I know it's redundant, or feels redundant. Use frontage landscaping standards to improve the appearance of commercial and industrial areas. Short-term, long-term? Short-term goal, okay. Consider permitting additional height and density to RM2, review and consider appropriate buffer and taller structures. I thought that was a short-term goal.
Okay.
Do we disagree?
No.
To me, that's an area of our, I guess, PUDs and RM that I think we need to dig into, whether we consider or agree with it or not, in my opinion.
It should be short-term, I just.
Read it.
Yes.
3G, implement corridor-specific landscaping and streetscape design concepts, short or long-term. in a way, we're kind of doing this by preserving corridors, so it kind of tied together for me, and I said it was short.
Yeah.
Tammy's going to be busy.
Did you not hear me say quit?
No, turn.
We got 3 years, 3 years, Tammy. Advocacy items, explore public-private partnerships for the corridor improvements. I thought that that was a township board item, and I think, to me, that was a long-term goal. And I,
Improvement, because we just finished.
yep, and I believe that that would be admin and PC assist. Develop a guidebook showing placemaking ideas for private development sites. I think that's on our staff. I think that is great in theory, but was a long-term goal, and I think that's our PC and township board can assist with that. If Tammy gets through her other list, for sure we could add that in. She hates me. 3J, develop annual survey to better understand the needs of the business community and ways in which the township can provide support. To me, that was kind of, that was the township board and our administration, assist by us. To me, that was, although I think is great information, to me it was a long-term goal since we have a sea of short-term goals.
Can you put Chamber of Commerce in there for supporting partners?
We could, yep, if we want to specifically call out someone, yes. So under that 3J, you were saying chamber?
Makes sense.
Mr. Gross, you had a comment? Disagree?
It just says develop an annual survey, so shouldn't that be short-term?
Well, I guess I'm saying in some of these of, at least to say they're not all, I didn't want to make a blanket statement of, yeah, let's do it all now, right? Because it's not a realistic strategy if we're saying everything is short-term.
I also think if you start, they already do a survey every year, just of their membership, but they already do one. You can start the partnership, but, I mean, like, information's already out there. You can, a little bit later on down the line, make it more cohesive for both.
So I guess I'm open for discussion if we want that to be long or short. Long? Okay. Okay. 3K, work with MDOT to encourage provisions to allow context-appropriate landscaping within state-controlled right-of-ways like Lapeer Road. To me, that was a short-term goal, only because I thought it could be something that we talk about corridors within our master plan. I think we're an assist to that, and I think that's the lead by our leadership, so our administration and the township board. Thoughts?
A lot of priority items.
Yep. I'm all for changing them to whatever we want. 3L, strive to target development to corridors with recent public investment, including but not including, or not limited to Brown Road and Baldwin Road.
Short.
Okay, so, and we think that is us who,
Well,
so I think that was, to me, it was,
Gary's group.
yeah, to me, it was administration.
Gary's administration,
Right.
technically.
Yep.
CIA board, maybe.
And I think maybe the board and ourselves are maybe an assist to that, but 3M, work with property owners and development and the development community to explore implementation of identified redevelopment site concept plans. So to me, that was us and our administration. It could also include the township board. I guess who takes the lead on it, right? I think, I don't know, I was a little mixed on that one.
Yeah.
So,
It's probably administration.
to me, is that kind of administration and part, kind of same thing to what we were saying with the prior one. And I think, to me, that would be a short-term goal. We see a lot of development occurring these days, and I think it would be good to start to help steer the conversation.
Does this refer to the redevelopment areas that we've identified in the master plan? So
Yes.
that's also going to be the, yeah, yeah. Short term, because that's,
Yeah, that's, I said administration, short-term, and the township board and planning commission are the partners. 3N, work towards development of a plan to promote Orion Township's leisure recreation amenities by highlighting natural beauty with importance of county state parks, non-motorized pathways, access to shopping, monitor the success of these efforts on local residents having access and reasonable use of these amenities. Township Board Administration, long-term goal?
Yes.
And I think we're probably still playing into that a little bit here with the master plan as an assist or a partner.
Let me look at that again. Which was development of a plan to promote Orion Township's recreation. I mean, we're already kind of doing this, right?
I think this, to me, was more about, could be like a marketing effort or right? Is that kind of what, it's a bigger kind of game plan of how do we promote and market and
I saw it as helping township residents in particular understand what great amenities, they don't always, everybody doesn't know all the great amenities that are here.
Gotta be a short term,
Okay.
because we are putting a lot of improvements and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, with that said, I would support that being short-term. Capital improvement action items, 3O, annual review and update the CIP to target capital spending to priority areas. So right now, we don't really do much with the CIP, correct? Should we be?
Historically, you haven't.
We are getting ready to start doing that, actually.
Correct. So years ago, even though it's supposed to be planning commission, there was a resolution naming the board to be responsible for CIP. Every year during budget, we'd have capital improvement, but they were just things like extra computers, things like that. So they recently contracted with another firm or a computer program that literally looked at CIP for the first time in many, many years, and so that's being worked on by our budget and procurement director. So I would think that would be short, because it's definitely kicked off and being
So
done.
us administration, and then we would partner with the board with that?
Or is it still going to be township board?
Well,
because of
It's
the
not,
resolution?
yeah, but
Okay.
we might support, but I think it's definitely township board.
Okay.
It's township board as the driving entity for it.
And admins being.
Okay,
the-
understood.
Being asked.
Okay.
Update that. And then we're going to be the partner. I guess I misunderstood when you were talking that it would actually come to us or not. Or, okay. Then I support. All right, other action items. Establish a beautification award program with categories for individual residential, commercial mixed-use properties, as well as collective neighborhood efforts. That was a long-term goal for me, and I think that was on the board. I think we can always promote or identify. Obviously, we look at Citizens of the Month. That could be something that the board does in addition to.
Doesn't the chamber give out a beautification award?
Excuse me.
Yes, it does.
It does give out a community beautification award, but A, they have to be a member, and B, it's a business. So it's very limited in scope.
So we don't necessarily want to explicitly call them out as a partner, necessarily. Okay. All right, community facilities, zoning action items 4A, review and amend zoning ordinance as needed to accommodate autonomous vehicles, ride sharing, and other forms of transportation.
20-year.
Long-term goal for me,
Long-term.
with PC admin and the board being our partner. Adopt a complete streets policy that establishes non-motor transportation as policy priority, reflecting that the township will consider opportunities for improvements to non-motorized connections and facilities whenever new construction projects are taking place. I think that's already in place by the township board. Obviously, we assist with that with the staff, and that's a short-term goal for me, since it's in motion. 4C, explain or explore the creation of an ad hoc committee tasked with the evaluation of sharing with evaluation of sharing facilities and services between adjacent communities, schools, the county, private businesses, with a goal of providing effective and efficient community amenities and services. To me, that's a long-term goal. That's the township board, that's our staff, and we would assist with that, obviously, as projects come about.
Yes.
Capital improvement action items. 4D, consider the priority installation of non-motorized facilities in accordance with the township safety plan, establish the core 15-minute neighborhoods. I think that's township board, admin also, partnering with the PC, and that's probably a short-term goal.
Yeah. Because those 15 minutes were short.
Other action items, minimize required street pavement width where possible based on the need to support travel lanes, street parking, emergency maintenance vehicles with vehicle access. I think that's a ordinance item. So I think that's kind of PC and our administration working with township board. And I'm kind of split right now of short-term, long-term. Part of me says long.
Long.
Okay. All right, long-term. Continue to update Township's recreation master plan every 5 years to ensure the adoption plan is recognized by the DNR and the township remains eligible for grant assurance. That's something that our administration does along with the township board. To me, that was a long-term goal since it's 5 years. We assist in that if we had some thoughts. All right, last page. Goal 5, community character and aesthetics. 5A, review and amend zoning ordinance as needed to require high-quality building materials and design standards for all development. I thought that was the PC and administration. And what do we feel about long-term, short-term? Short. Okay. Agree with that. Do we want to say lead body is admin and ourselves or just the PC? Thoughts? Feel like it's a PC admin thing.
Right, admin PC, yeah.
Yep. And obviously township board, so kind of similar approach for zoning items across the board. Review and amend zoning ordinances as needed to encourage preservation and reuse of historic structures. I think it's important, but to me it was a long-term goal.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Review and update lighting ordinances to meet Michigan dark skies regulations. This was a short-term goal for me. Brought it up a little bit earlier. Kind of ties to the other topic that we had. Hold on here. I'm losing my groove.
I have a question.
Go for it.
5B, in regard to the preservation of and reuse of historic structures. You know, I think that should be a short-term goal because you make it long-term, and if there's so much going on in our community right now that if you don't have, if it's not a priority or a focus, something could happen to one of these facilities, and we may regret it down the road. So I'd suggest that we make that just as important as the design standards and so forth of new structures.
Go ahead. Thoughts on consideration of moving it to short over long?
I agree that it's important, but I think this is a multi-pronged equation here because these historic structures, what specifically are we talking about? Because and I mean, I know it's not here, but the one that pops into my brain is the Eamon Center. I know that's in the village, but like that was a privately owned, do you see what I'm saying? Like where?
If you're asking me where in
What can
our
we do?
township are these historic structures that need to preserve? That
Like
we
the
need to-
barn on Clarkston Road.
The barn on
Called in
Clarkston
there.
Road, or perhaps parts of Canterbury Village. Again, it's private, I get it. Scripps Mansion, or any
Yeah, I
number
mean, I
of-
know that, but I mean, those are all, like, what can we do in the short term to,
So I looked
Well,
at
it just
that.
says here to encourage preservation and reuse of historic structures. That's not saying
Well,
assure that they're
review and amend the zoning ordinance. So we're talking about creating like a design standard or or a historic preservation
preservation
standard, right? So that's a new section, it's a new thought, you know, I'm not, we do have sections that do speak to preservation, right? Our PUD talks about it.
PUD.
Okay, so if there's mechanisms in place now, and we're going to continue those, then that's fine.
And I think we get through the list, I think it's definitely something to move up in the priority list if we can,
You know, and there's also, I mean, we are all individuals too, and if there's a lull in the work, I'm just saying, I can be positive. I mean, you know, if this is something that's a priority for you, Joe, then you know, maybe I have other, like, gardening stuff would be a priority for me, and I'd be willing to assist with, you know what I mean?
Well, let me add to the equation that I don't know what year it was. It was here when I started. It was a survey done by the Orion Historical Society of all the buildings, that thick, of any that they felt were of an age that they were of historical value. So I guess there could be a couple that since that was done that's old enough now that it's not in there, but it would have obviously the oldest. So we have our inventory. So then it would just be a discussion of, we know that within the PUD, we have a mechanism to preserve. Not that I want to add anything more to the short, but I don't see this as coming up with something creative to put in the ordinance as a way to encourage the preservation. We've got the meat and potatoes, we just need the language.
So do we want to circle back to that after kind of looking at the list? Do we want to move it to short term since we have some goals in place and could consider it?
I would be okay with moving it to short term.
Okay.
Knowing that it would fit, you know.
And do we want to call out like supporting partners, for example, as like I'm totally grabbing a blank, but the
The
preservation.
Historical Society?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Historical
Absolutely.
Society. Yes, thank you. I think we should. And we have done that in the past, by the way. Port Barn, Howarth Schoolhouse, all of those are partnerships between the township and the Historical Society.
Okay,
Fun fact.
that's a fun fact.
Move the Howarth Church and the Port Barn for that matter. Establish, so 5D, establish architectural design, signage, landscaping of key entryway features at the township borders. Thought this was a township board item. We can partner with it with our staff. To me, it was long-term.
Yes.
When a property is developed or redeveloped, explore opportunities to link the front and back of the property by pedestrian passages that are open to the public. I think this is the board and us. A lot of times it comes up with safety pass and we're already doing it, so I thought it was a short-term goal. Admin could be a partner with it, or arguably you could move any of those around from lead to admin. Capital improvement action items, update the township's CIP plan annually. I think that's the township board. I think we're a partner in that with the administration, and I think that's a short-term item since it's already in place. All right, any disagreement? Gives us a solid first draft. Any other closing comments? Okay,
Great work.
You did it.
look at all those things we accomplished today. All right, I don't know what happened to my agenda. Can I borrow this real quick? I'm sorry. That closes out. Do we need a motion on this? We do, I think. No, we don't? Okay. I'll make a motion to at least receive and file. Do I have a support?
Support.
Support by Mrs. Urbanowski. All those in favor, please stay with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Okay, I'll get it from the minutes. I was just wondering if so do you want this populated and back in front of you to look at again to make sure that it was understood
So if I recall correctly, this would get woven into the final master plan
do you
draft.
want to look it over, seeing it written kind of, you might, oh,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile to look at it one more time, but I think there wasn't huge conversation. I know we flew through it, but sure.
No,
Throw it on
We'll
our
get back
agenda
to it.
on our next master plan update. Okay, that leads us to public comments. Seeing no one racing up to the podium, we have no written communications, planner report and education. We don't have any tonight. Next meeting, we will. Committee reports, we don't have any. Future public hearings, Tammy, do we have any scheduled currently?
Not as of right now.
Okay. Chairman's comments, I appreciate everyone that came to the open house this evening. It's obviously been a long and thought-out process for the update to the master plan. Kind of as we went through this action strategy outline plan, I do think one of my comments is taking a look at our PUDs and multifamily developments, I think are worthwhile, being maybe a priority in the future. Seem to be like some of the biggest comments that we got are concerns about some of our PUDs in the last 5 years and how they've influenced our township residents. I heard concerns about not just recently proposed, but other actually in construction or completed construction projects about stormwater concerns, about buffers, all of those little things that do disturb our existing citizens and their property. So always appreciate everyone coming out, but I think that's one of my sections, along with our favorite Woodlands piece that's always in the back of my mind to update. So with that said, Mr. Walker.
Thanks to Ms. Urbanowski for doing a great job with the book sale. I've unfortunately been laid up a little bit, and have not been there like I would like to be, but I understand it's in capable hands with her, and I think we sold 3,000 books or thereabouts the first day. So thank you.
Oh, very nice. Mr. St. Henry.
The only comment I have is in regard to the priority project that we just worked on. I suggest that we review this perhaps once a year or maybe once every 2 years, just to see if these are truly still priorities, maybe knock a few of them off the list that we've accomplished. Maybe there's opportunities to move some back, as we progress through the next 5 years. I just think it's a healthy thing to do.
Agreed, and I think it's also worthwhile taking a look at the short-term list and plucking out and actually making action items, and having a schedule to say, hey, in June or whatever, we're gonna have 3 or 4 sections reviewed and updated, so.
Rod, wouldn't you agree that really these goals, whether I come up with a laminated thing that's sitting here, really should be in front of us each time we're making a decision? I mean, these goals are part of any decision on some of them. I mean, obviously, talking about, historic buildings could be, but I just think that's one thing we haven't done with our old master plans. We had so many pages that they just were overwhelming and were not consciously in front of us I'm sorry, I'm not a decision maker, is the board was making the decisions.
Yes, you
So
are.
I always thought in my mind that, maybe I had, laminated sitting here, so it's right here in front of your eyes as you're looking at our goals for projects.
And in particular, when you're looking at things that involve policy decisions or some type of discretionary decision where you're struggling with whether or not it's the right thing to do, that's really where this comes in handy, is having this set of goals and objectives, and you can point to it and say, this is what we were looking for, or this really wasn't what we were looking for, so agreed.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile having a agenda item, maybe quarterly, to just briefly discuss, to say, what else do we want to tackle? And we always kind of stare at one another and go, and I think this is the list we should be going back to.
And I think it makes it easier when you see it quarterly, because now, all joking aside, I present something, you're like, oh.
Never.
It's coming, and we've all agreed, okay, in the first of each month and a quarter, that we will be looking at and addressing what action items we're taking. The other comment I had is, it's required that the Planning Commission and the ZBA have an annual report every year, and it's always just been a summary of the cases. We had 10 special land uses and 18 site plans, and really it should be getting into what our goals were and what we did and the actions we took and what we accomplished, not the cases we took in. It's fine, but that really was just regurgitating cases taken in versus improving and working towards the goals that we're setting in our master plan. So supporting what Joe's saying, that it, I wouldn't say every 2 years, it's frequent, because we're gonna have to report on it, and what are we doing, what actions, items are we taking towards achieving those goals?
Well, if we're going to do that on a quarterly basis, then we need to really zero in on the 3 or 4 very top priorities for that quarter. We all have other lives, careers, and so forth, and if we went ahead and tried to tackle
Yep.
too much in a quarter, we would just be, it'd be self-defeating.
Yeah, because I think even within the short term, you've got to prioritize. There's a lot of short, you can't do them all at once, you've got to be focused. So of all the shorts, let's prioritize another meeting, not related to what redevelopment wants within our master plan, but after it's adopted, we've got to have those conversations on exactly how we're going to achieve them. Is it subcommittees, is it, how we're going to get there, in what order?
Agreed. Additional comments?
Oh, I thought you were done.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
Ms. Gross? No comments? Mrs. Urbanowski?
Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Walker, but there are a lot of people putting out those books, and I'll be there tomorrow from 9:30 to 1:30, so come buy some books from me. That's all I want to say.
Ms. Bracken?
Nothing.
Tammy?
I just wanted to give you heads up for what's coming. Next meeting, in addition to whatever's on the agenda, we will have discussion on a proposed text amendment. And to be boldly honest, it is all related to General Motors. When General Motors originally came to this community is when we created the IC district. Only parcel in IC is General Motors, and the ordinance was basically written strongly with the assistance of General Motors. We have not touched that zoning district since they came in, and I'm not going to say nothing. I mean, there's some sections of every district that changed, as we changed them all. So we are looking long and hard at that district because it hasn't been touched in many years. There's some things that are very out of date. So I'm having discussions right now. I will bring what the proposed text is to the June 1st meeting, and then we're aggressive on this time frame. I'm teeing it up for the next meeting being the public hearing on it. But just giving you a heads up that is what is occurring. We're having, looking at an ordinance that really needed updating, so there's going to be a lot of things that need to change within there.
Understood. Additional closing comments? If not, I have 8:37. I have a motion to adjourn by myself. Do I have support?
Support.
Support by Mrs. Urbanowski. All those in favor, please stay with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.